What would happen if you mixed an age-old game like chess with something modern, like Overwatch? Well, I'd imagine you'd get something a bit like this. I loaded into a game of shiny pieces where everything would have an alternate moveset. My opponent rapidly engaged me with his rook, hardly a fair fight as I would be playing pawn. Trying my best to keep up, I was swiftly defeated. I now choose to engage with my rook. I am pretty bad at this kit, however. I engage, we have a bit of a firefight, and then I trip up in the building ability, and am swiftly defeated. Alright, I now maneuver my pieces around as to get my bishop into a fight with the rook. I know my opponent won't engage the king, as that is a dangerous gamble. This will be interesting. I do some jumping and rain down some fire. We trade some hits, mostly me hitting him, and then I relocate on top of the shelf. The rocket jump ability is quite useful for mobility. From here I trade some fire, and then eventually go in for a bombing run. I end up behind the curtain, and take my time to regenerate my abilities. I engage again, raining down some more fire. I score a few good hits, but nothing major. I go in for another run. This time it actually hits. He's shot up to the ceiling, but I don't manage to land any more hits. I do some jumping, but I'm eventually hit by a cannonball, from which I go into another bombing run. Time to relocate back to the shelf. From here I can safely trade fire. I choose to go in for another engagement. We both fly up to the ceiling, and I trade some more shots. None of these do anything major either. Eventually, I use his cannonball to boost me around back to the shelf. We continue trading fire, but neither of us really gets anywhere. I go in for another run. Yet again, I fail to do any damage mid-air. We keep trading hits, and I get a couple, eventually going in for yet another. Some more good hits. Alright, going in for yet another run. I miss, but rain down some fire from above. And I choose to go in again soon. This time I connect, and from here on we fight in the curtains. I land some good hits, but yet again fail to kill my opponent. I decide he must be low and head up, but unfortunately he lands a lucky shot. A disappointing defeat. Back to the board we go. He chooses to maneuver his knight into my territory, and I decide why not engage with the pawn again. I'll try putting up a good fight, but ultimately probably will lose. I go in with my clone ability, trying to do some damage with my clones here, but ultimately they all die and I have to go in for an actual engagement. The pawn has a very limited ranged ability in throwing its sword, which is rather weak, so mostly if I want to win this I have to engage close quarters, which is rather difficult. I'm low, but I managed to dodge his shots and regenerate. Go in with my clone again. He doesn't seem to notice that it's my clone, so I just keep going at it. And back him into the corner with it, but eventually it dies too, and I have to go in for another melee engagement. I managed to put my clone in front of me here by the corner. He seems to think the clone is me again, but ultimately this does not last long, as he disengages. Dodging fire from him, I go in for another melee engagement. Do some sword throwing, that actually hits. He escapes again, unfortunately. Alright, I have to go in for another engagement. I take some serious damage here, but I managed to escape. Going in for yet another fight. He runs. We trade some hits here, and ultimately I managed to regenerate from that attack as well, landing myself on the train. I do some ranged damage with the sword, but there's not much I can do from here. I managed to escape the train, but it's pretty much over by now. An unfortunate loss, but not an unpredictable one. He yet again chooses to engage my pawn, hardly a fair fight, but kind of a theme for this one. I decided to go for a bit of a different strategy using the block ability instead of actually trying to engage with any fire. We have a little bit of a standoff, and ultimately I hop over him and try to deal some damage, but I miss. I try to use my clone's block ability to have him spend more time on killing each one, so as I have, more time to regenerate between fights. But there's only so much I can do, and this fight will likely be another loss. He rains down some heavy fire, but I don't take any damage due to blocking. Yet again, my block gets disabled, but I still don't take any damage. I head in for an engagement, but decide to call it off. Throw my sword, no blocking from here. And it's over. Yet another defeat, and yet another rather predictable one. I decide to head in with the queen, who, despite having great board mobility in the actual game of chess, has a pretty weak kit here because it's melee. And it's also my second time playing it, but I guess we'll see how this goes. My decent aim lands me a couple hits here. Ultimately, I decide that engaging in close quarters is better, considering that this is a melee kit. I land a couple pretty good shots here. He must be low, but he does manage to escape. I keep pushing forward. And eventually I decide that I need to relocate behind him. This somewhat confuses him, but he does manage to pivot. However, from here, I score just hit after hit, and ultimately win the fight. A first win for this game. Hopefully, a bit of a turning of tides, too. I sit and enjoy the kill cam from this successful victory, but soon it's time to move on to the next. He finally decides to engage my king with his rook. This will certainly be interesting. The king is technically another melee kit, but it has a ranged attack, so it's pretty much just a ranged kit. I managed to score a good helicopter hit here, however I get taken down to basically 0 health. My shield ability regenerates just in time, and I managed to score some lucky hits and win that engagement. Alright, back to the board here. I decide it's finally time to try to go in for some actual action. I move my queen in and decide it's best to engage the pawn between the king and the bishop so that hopefully maybe he forgets the bishop exists and engages me with a different piece. Queen versus pawn should be fairly easy. Let's see this. I grab a pawn so as to use as a sort of shield. However, I throw that out pretty quickly and decide to go for some actual melee hits. I do pretty good damage here and determine that that pawn is indeed the real player. I was correct, but he splits again, meaning I have lost him. I decide to grapple away so as not to take too much damage, and then I grab one of the pawns. This is a decoy as it crumbles instantly upon impact. However, now I know that his pawn is the one in front of me. I do another grapple, and now even though he splits, the real pawn stays in the grapple and I can finish this engagement with some nice hits. There we go. Alright, now I will be engaged by the bishop. This is very sad, so let's just try to put up a good fight here. I instantly relocate to the top of the shelf so as not to get absolutely destroyed within the first 5 seconds. And fire just simply gets rained down upon me with not much I can do. I decide that going in is my best shot. I managed to land 4 consecutive hits, and I actually win that. Pretty crazy. Finally, time to engage his king. It all comes down to this. Alright, I decide to move out so that his helicopter ability doesn't instantly kill me. And from the audio I can tell that helicopter is being used at this point. Alright, I have managed to escape, and I grapple over to the other side of the room, taking the fight down to the ground. I land a couple good hits. However, helicopter gets cast, I take some decent damage, but I manage to keep landing hits, and it's over in an instant. Alright, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for some more professional FPS chess gameplay, and I am out.